There's been loud U.S. government reaction to the Colonial Pipeline and JBS attacks, with President Biden warning Putin about ransomware attacks. DarkSide, one of the threat actors, seems to have well gone dark. Has the outrage and publicity resulted in any diminution or change in adversary behavior that you can detect? What trends are you seeing in this space?
Well, that's a great question, Ellen, and it's good to see we're trying to garner a national level attack to all the ransomware attacks we're seeing. Right now, as we sit here, we're responding to well over 150 breaches at FireEye. So from my vantage point, there's still a bunch of ransomware actors. They're acting with impunity. They're acting without risks or repercussions. And I just believe wherever money goes, crime follows. So if you can hack and make a lot of money off of it, especially anonymously in safe harbors that are 10,000 miles away from where the crimes are being committed, it's not going to stop. So do I think, the next great ransomware attack's around the corner? It might be. I don't think there's a real change in behavior based on the last few months. But I can tell you this, Ellen, it's kind of interesting. Colonial Pipeline, JBS Meats, those happened right before the heads of state spoke. And way in the back of my mind, there's this little spider sense wondering, was that intentional? Was that deliberate? Were those attacks allowed to happen just so that there's more collateral to put on the table and have a discussion? I don't know. I do know there's an increase in ransomware that's happened really kind of its evolution mirrors the adoption of anonymous currencies.
Well, let's move to that issue of the ransoms. Some experts, said that companies should refuse to pay ransoms because it only encourages the cyber criminals and fuels their activity. The government is reviewing the policy now. What's your take? And what percentage of your clients actually wind up paying a ransom?
Well, a couple ways to address that. First, I think Senator King was right in his assessment of that situation. He said he hadn't given a lot of thought. I don't know if it takes that much thought. I've been thinking about it for years. You can't just ban the payment of ransomware in isolation. You have to have a multi-pronged approach to how we as a nation, or any nation really, or even society is going to address ransomware. And first and foremost, you want to foster, especially for critical infrastructure, health and welfare of their systems, the blocking and tackling necessary to raise the bar on security, whether that's regulation, standards, or legislation. Critical infrastructure needs to have a different risk profile than other infrastructure. You also need to impose risks or repercussions to the actors. I think it is not fair, nor will it have the desired outcomes, to just say you can't pay the ransomware extortionist. You can't pay them without imposing risks to those folks. Otherwise, here's what you're doing. We're all playing goalie in both the public and private sector, trying to keep the ball from going in the goal, and the person's getting unlimited penalty shots. You got to impose risks or repercussions to the actors as well. So you get better baseline for security and benchmarks. You get risks and repercussion to the actors that are doing the ransomware or the nations harboring those actors. I think there's a certain level of behavior that a nation has to follow to earn the right to be part of a global economy. Then I think the third thing is you address the ransomware payments. And I'll leave this question with this remark. No CEO wants to pay it. It's not the default answer ever. Every time we deal with this, the CEO who owns the incident and owns the response and is figuring out what's the best thing for the company to do has to do the risk calculus. And they don't start with, hey, let's just pay it. And it's not a flippant decision. It is one based on the risk versus rewards of that particular breach and what's at stake.